Hello and welcome to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host Navneet Kaushal. Today we are joined by a true pioneer in digital marketing and personal branding, Dennis Yu. Dennis is the CEO of BlitzMetrics and has an impressive career dedicated to helping businesses and individuals optimize their online presence. From creating impactful ad strategies to mastering the art of being Googleable, yeah, that's a thing. Dennis is a treasure trove of insights. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Navneet, and it's such a pleasure to be on your show. You have been doing SEO longer than most anybody.
Just 22 years.
Yeah, and we've both been friends with Vivek for 20 some years.
Yes, so we have common friends for obvious reasons, right? Yes. So, Dennis, let's start with your how you started. So your career spanned decades in the digital marketing industry. Can you share with us how you started your journey and what inspired you to focus on data-driven marketing?
Well, I started working at the airlines because the CEO of American Airlines was my mentor, and I was going to go to Goldman Sachs and do investment banking and all that kind of finance stuff. I went to the London School of Economics, to study finance and do that Wall Street kind of career. But this old man told me, there's this thing called the internet. And this was 30 years ago. Okay. And I'd been building websites. And he said, you should build the website for us. And back then, no one was buying any tickets on the internet. People were just surfing porn or whatever. They weren't doing transactions on the internet, right? And so I believed this old man. And it turned out he was right. And I think it would have been very good if I went to Goldman Sachs. But I did this instead. And because of what happened in American Airlines, I was very, very lucky to, be involved in Silicon Valley at the very beginning. And because I was associated around a lot of really smart people, not because I was anyone special, but I was just I learned from all these people who were just the people who like invented the internet, the guy who was like next door to me in the office at Yahoo was Rasmus Leerdorf, who invented PHP. I hung out with Peter Elhage, with the guy who invented Gmail. On and on, right? I don't want to name drop, but all these, David Philo, we play Frisbee twice a week, right? He was the richest man in the world under 40 until Zuckerberg came along. So as a search engine engineer at Yahoo, I got a very different view of SEO than these SEO guru people who are trying to trick the search engines, because I represented the search engine. So I would go to conferences and speak representing the search engine. Okay. And I would give advice to all these other people that would try to say, here's the ways that you could trick, Dennis, and trick, a lot of the people I trained up went to go work at Google. So I have a very cynical view of people that do SEO.
Okay. Now, you have mentioned being a math guy in previous interviews. So how has your background in mathematics influenced your approach to digital marketing?
Math taught me that I can be very confident and I could feel that I'm correct, but the data is always going to win. And I ran Division I cross country and track, and I would beat some people and other people would beat me, and it wouldn't matter what kind of game I talked. It wouldn't matter what kind of excuse I have. Whoever ran the fastest time was the winner. And that's what this whole data and math thing taught me, the purity of performance. And that everything, this is going to sound really geeky. Maybe people will think like I'm some sort of weirdo, but I feel like everything, even in business, even like girlfriend relationships, are driven by some underlying data and cause that we can diagnose and be able to treat.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree, yes.
To be rational, like Ray Dalio and Principles, one of my favorite books on how to get around the blind spots that you have to really see the truth, even if it's ugly and painful, and being able to solve problems. Because even I find myself, I get in recurring loops. I make the same mistakes. And all of us in business, we have these loops that keep causing recurring damage, and we need to solve them. It's the same thing.
Okay, right. I agree on that. End of the day, maths is data, and I think data is science, and that's what it's all about.
And it's problem solving. It's not equations and calculator stuff. People say, oh, you don't need, the stuff that Dennis does. We don't need, because I tutored math and all this. I just love doing this. We don't need that. We have a calculator. right? No, you need to learn the basic principles, right? Oh, we have ChatGPT now or whatever. No, you still need to be able to think. So I've translated this data thing as more intelligent problem solving based on data. And I call it metrics analysis action. If you have the data, you can do analysis, which is to understand why did something happen? Why did it happen or not happen the way we want it to happen? And therefore, what should we do because of that insight, that non-obvious reason why the conversion rate went down, why we were ranking, why this customer was not happy, why, like everything, there's a why. And so everything I see in analytics, because my whole career is based on analytics, I'm curious to see what you think, but everything I see in analytics is fake. That Google Analytics, there's no analytics in Google Analytics. You know what I mean? There's Google Charts and Google Pie Graphs, and there's no analytics. I've never seen. I mean, one of my friends is the head of analytics at Disney, and we've had some discussions, and he showed me his stuff, and I said, Brandon, no analytics in what you're doing. Another friend who runs the data mining for Capital One, which is a multi-billion-dollar bank, and he told me how he spent $100 million on the data warehouse building all this analytics. And I said, really? Show me some analysis. And he went on and on about how much data he gathered and how big his hardware was and the infrastructure and how many people got these reports and the BI. And I said, yes, but there's no analytics. And then I asked him, I know we're off track, but I'll just tell you one thing. I said, okay, so you're so proud of the $100 million you spent with all the latest technology, all the latest vendors. And of course, the vendors gave you all these awards because you were spending all this money with them. But tell me, your system that does the analytics, for the bank, how many new credit cards, how much money do we have? How many people bought different offers? How much interest did you charge? How many late fees? The kinds of things that banks care about. Do you even know how many people opened your reports? Do you even know the analytics of your analytics system? He had no idea.
Right. Because when I started, the only thing I loved about digital marketing was that everything is measurable. So
exactly.
The offline, everything is measurable. So that's the point. And anything which can be measured should be measured.
Yeah.
Right. Now, your philosophy also emphasizes accountability and evidence-based marketing. So how did you come to develop this approach, and why it's more than ever critical for agencies today?
Well, I didn't speak English as my first language, and that gave me a chip on my shoulder because other kids were popular. They would make fun of me. I wasn't cool. And things that were subjective, like English, I was a President's Scholar undergrad, full scholarship, which is hard to get. They have to nominate you. You can't even apply. And I took, just to finish my undergrad, I had to take a basic English class. Like, obviously I spoke and wrote great English, but I had to take some very basic class. And this teacher gave me a D in the class. And my essays were excellent, right? Everything was excellent. Full scholarship student, this whole kind of thing. And it taught me that people are so subjective. And the more important they are, or the more political they are, the more they can get away with not making the right decision and blaming other people. So then they spend all their time playing games. As you know, when you work with larger companies, more of this sort of behavior, which we scratch our heads. Some people call it HIPPO, highest paid person's opinion. All of the, people doing dumb things and playing tricks and the government wasting money, whatever, this kind of thing. And I thought, I really don't like it when it's subjective or based on, somebody's friends with so-and-so, and that's why they got the promotion, or that's why they made this decision because of this underlying thing that wasn't based on data. So me as this mischievous guy, I would go into these meetings with other people and I would just crush them because I had better data. Because someone would have an opinion and they would be way more eloquent than me, Navneet, right? But then I would, here's how I would win almost any argument. Whoever has the data, and that's me, because I'm in the database. No one has, I control the database. I know all the fields and I design the schema, all of this, right? I do all the queries, right? Other people don't even know how to work. They can't even write a SQL query, right? So if you have the data, then you are best positioned to do the analysis, which is the interpretation and understanding what's going on and what, giving meaning out of all these numbers and charts and this kind of thing, right? And whoever does the analysis is best positioned to make the recommendation of what we should do.
Right.
And the trouble is, other people who are more senior to me, who are more important, who had more political power, they would make the recommendation, right? They would make some recommendation. And instead of me trying to fight them on whose recommendation was better or who was better friends, or I took the boss out to the big dinner just to try to get his opinion or try to, play this game. Instead, I would start with the data saying, well, here's the data. And based on the data, here's the analysis. So nobody can argue the link between the data and the analysis because I win. I win when it comes, like, obviously everyone knows I win when it comes to the data because I own that. I own the database. I built the database, right? Then at Yahoo, I did this, I was able to win these political arguments. So I'd have the analysis. So you couldn't argue my analysis, right? Because you can't argue the data. And then, Navneet, I'd say, well, based on this analysis, obviously we should do this, right? Because our conversion rate is like this, our average customer is like this offer is going to perform better than that offer. And when we did this test, we saw that A did like this and B did like this. So we should clearly do this. So no one can argue because I make the transition from analysis to action, right? So if I go metrics to analysis to action, I can beat anybody, no matter how political they are.
Absolutely right. Yeah, that completely makes sense. Might not, a lot of people might not agree, but yeah, it makes sense.
They could disagree, but they would be wrong. Yeah. I've done this for 30 something years, taught a lot of people this. And people like me who maybe are quieter, maybe who aren't as well versed, maybe English isn't their first language. They can win against people who are very political, who, is friends with their son is the CEO of this other. I mean, there's, like those, it's very hard to win against those situations, but that helps you in those situations. As long as someone cares about the money. So either the business owner or the CFO or somebody who cares about whether the company's actually successful, they're going to listen to you.
Right.
Because you're an agency and you come into like Vivek and I would talk about this all the time. I've been to Mumbai multiple times and he would take me and meet the airline and the CPG company, you call it FMCG, these other, like, it was so great, right? And he taught me how to kind of balance between the relationship game, which he's obviously very good at, and also the data game. And I've kind of learned, it's like being ambidextrous. And I think, for all of our agency insider people or even the clients of Page Traffic, that this is true too, right? You have to deal with like other people's opinions who may be very confident, but they're very wrong.
Absolutely. We do it every day, including the clients. I agree. Yes. Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the power of being Googleable. One of your key concepts is about becoming more Googleable. Can you unpack what does this means and why it's so crucial in today's AI-driven world?
Oh, that is a great question. You are one of the few people that has, it takes a lot of insight to ask a question like this. There's a lot of assumptions there. So let me break it down for the people. That's a compliment question, what you're asking. So me as a search engine engineer, we are trying to make sense of the world. And people can call us evil or that we're trying to make money on ads or whatever they could say. But here's the way it works. There's all the information in this world that we have access to, social media data, whatever we can pull, websites, right? Forums, people's reviews. And we put them into this big knowledge graph, which is a big database of objects, things, people, locations, nouns, right? Companies, right? And then when we have this big molecule of all these atoms, or actually probably better analogies like the skeleton, right? We have all these bones that are connected together. Now we're trying to add meat, the data, the facts that are associated with those objects. So what do I know about Navneet Kaushal? I know that he runs Page Traffic and he's done that 22 years. Right. I know that he has the Agency Insider podcast. I know that you're also connected. There's a node that connects you to Vivek and I, right? And we have other friends in India. And we have 439 mutual connections on LinkedIn. Did you know that? That's crazy, right? There's not many people. I mean, that's a lot of mutual connections. Most people don't even have that many connections in total, right? And so all of these objects have information about them. And then the objects are all connected. And so the way they're connected gives context to the search engine when people ask a question. Because when people ask a question about an object or how to do something, there's an implied latent connection to other objects to be able to answer that question, right? You know what I'm talking about, but most people, what I'm saying sounds like, oh, Dennis is going into his math thing again, right? So to be Googleable means that we must establish the foundation of you, your company, the other people, your clients, your podcast, like you need to establish the correct connections and then the facts associated with those entity objects. So Google's knowledge graph, which was launched technically in 2012, but it was earlier than that, is they explain how the knowledge graph works. And they have an API that allows us to pull. So I made a free tool just so anybody, it's not very hard to pull an API. I mean, ChatGPT can write the Python script for you to do that. And it tells us the citation strength of any particular object. So I happen to know that Navneet Kaushal has a knowledge panel on Google, but you have not enriched it, and I'm not sure if you've claimed it. And there's other things like that. Page Traffic has a knowledge panel. That's impressive, but it's a partial knowledge panel, right?
Yes.
Even though you've interviewed all these other people, you have 4,000 subscribers on your YouTube. You're prolific on all, like you are a icon in industry, not even just SEO. You're an icon. But because you haven't made all those connections just explicit, they're there, but they need to be so like for sure, clear facts associated with those different objects that you're not triggering a full knowledge panel. And so most people think you have to be a celebrity or be famous. Just Google me and see like all this stuff, right? I practice what I preach. I think all of us should have that. And I've done this for dozens of my friends. So to be Googleable is any object, meaning your company, the address that it's at, or you have multiple addresses, the different people, your products, your companies, the different things that you offer, right? Those are separate objects that have information around them, and they're connected to different kinds of clients in different industries. Those are other, a conference, that's an object, right? A particular vehicle you own, that's an object. So we're just trying to connect the objects and add more attributes, more meat to the skeleton there. And I view that as kind of my way of looking at SEO, not like, whatever, site maps or backlinks or like, this kind of like the SEO tool, Ahrefs, Majestic. Like that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how do I push enough information to Google to show that I am who I say I am and that I do the thing that I actually say I do in the city that I do, with so much corroborating, referential, reinforcing authority, because other people are saying that these facts are true. These attributes associated with the object are true, that it must be true. And therefore Google can show that as truth because everything in the knowledge panel is true. It's a fact. It's not like, oh, I like this person, or like, no, it's a fact. Like, it'll show like I'm an author, that I have a best-selling book, that I have ownership in certain companies. These are all facts, right? It shows that I just turned 50 on October 6th. That's a fact. It shows I was in Vietnam and China last week. Fact, right? It shows, yesterday I was on this other podcast for franchises who have lots of locations. It's a fact, right? So we're just trying to establish the fact, not trying to like use ChatGPT to make up all this stuff. So if this information layer is organized properly, visible, and connected with the proper entity objects and all this into this layer to be Googleable, then we have pretty much automatically unlocked the AI layer too.
Right.
I have a friend who my buddy Danny, we were at the Great Wall of China just over a week ago. And I was in 4 countries a week ago in Asia, and I'm back in America today. I don't even know what time it is. And he was looking for, we were looking for a restaurant. And he asked ChatGPT. And ChatGPT recommended, when you're in Beijing, you really got to try this kind of food, right? And so we went there, and it was amazing. And we talked to the owner. They said, how do you find us? Well, we asked ChatGPT, right? And all these people are saying, people are not using Google anymore, or Anthropic or whatever is going to kill search, or I don't know, whatever. But the way you win in the AI layer is you win in the search layer. It's not that AI replaces search. AI is a layer that's built on top of search in the same way that, AI pulls out of social, or like all these things are layers stacked on each other, right? Yeah. It's the best way to think about it.
Right. I also been on a podcast with Jason Bernard, if you know.
Yeah.
guy, so he
Yeah.
also does a lot of. He also preach a lot of knowledge graphs as
He's the
well.
brand SERP guy. Yeah. He wears the red shirts, and every time I've
Yeah.
interviewed him, he's worn his red shirt. I've seen him in person multiple times. I said, how many red shirts do you have?
I'm gonna have. I had done previously. I'm gonna have him shortly on another podcast
He's
of mine.
great.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great. Great, great. Right now, of course, you talked about knowledge, and I believe because with AI and with Google now, with Google new algorithms talking more about brand and credibility to
Yeah.
brand and ranking more websites which have brand credibility, I
Yeah.
think. Do you think this knowledge graph becomes a part of that credibility as well?
It becomes even more important. What I've
Right.
said, and you can see this, you can Google it and see this is not something I said just like a couple of years ago. I've said
Right.
for 15 plus years that brand strength, the power, the value of a brand is the
Right.
sum of all the positive and negative interactions with customers, employees, the community, everybody. So the brand is not the logo that you pay to have designed. The brand is not like the slogan or whatever it is. The brand is actually these little microtransactions like reviews, what other people are saying, engagement on social media, people watching a YouTube video. Every one of those is a vote. It's a review, right? So I think that if you're able to round up and collect the key people that are associated with that brand, and not just the founder, not just the top executive people, but all the people, the different customers, the janitor, all these people, that's actually what builds the brand, because those are all corroborating signals. And therefore, curious to see if you agree. A lot of people disagree with me, but because they're biased and wrong. But I believe that brand power increasingly comes from third-party signals, and there's less and less trust from what the brand says themselves.
I agree with you. But now, here's the thing: how does a small business go about doing it? Because it sounds third party and
No, it's
credible,
very
and
easy. So,
small
so I have a
business.
friend. I was in 2 days ago. I don't even know. I was in Philadelphia. Okay, and I have a
Okay,
friend who has a painting company,
okay,
not a huge company, right? You've probably never heard of it, Davis Painting. And his company grew something crazy like 80% in the last year. And a lot of it has to do with he's very good at training his workers and showing up on time and doing good work and all, which lead to good reviews.
right,
But in the last couple months, he created a challenge for his different. Now, these are painters. These are not marketing people. These are people who go to a house and paint. What color do
right,
you want the wall? Light blue. Okay, right? These are painters. And he incentivized them to collect more reviews. I think every review that he was able to get, or that each person, he has all these painters, got $10 for every review, and then $50 every week to whoever got the most reviews. And that significantly improved his SEO, which then we see how many calls came into this Google business profile, came into all the other channels in his analytics. And some people would claim it was SEO, but I call that, to your question, the increasing volume of third-party analytic signals. So when you post, a podcast talking about how you grew a restaurant chain that has 120 locations or whatever, and there's true facts behind it, and it connects to that actual person, and then you interview Jason Barnard, and then Anton Schulke, I saw you pushed that out there recently, right? And he changed. It used to be it's SEMrush, then he moved to Duda and all this. But you're showing trust because of the nature of your relationships, and people are engaging on this. People who are important are engaging. People who are already verified and not blue check verified, but like trusted in certain areas of expertise, that sends corroborating signals all over, right?
right.
Just like Google and that big leak, they had to reveal that the Chrome click data, the actual behavior data counted more than the backlink signals. Like, we've known this the whole time, right? I don't know why these SEO people want to declare this some big revelation. We've always known this, right? Or
Right.
maybe because I'm at the search engine, because I always distrust all the links people try to build because I know they're there to try to trick me, right?
Yeah, because you can trick links, but you can't trick user data.
Well, there's
And to
ways to
some
do it. There's the CTR black hat thing and all that, but even
extent, I
still,
would say.
yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah.
right, right,
We
right.
don't do any black hat, never.
Okay, okay. So now, we talked about how we can Googleable and how we can trigger a knowledge panel. Now, what are some of the common pitfall people faces when trying to enhance their online visibility or credibility?
Oh, we could spend a whole episode just on this, but I'll list the top few. One is going for vanity. Lots of followers, lots of views. There's lots of tricky things like panels that you can use to get 1 million followers for like $50 or whatever it is. This garbage things to try to make it look like you are bigger than you are. But those are detectable and they actually hurt you. It's like drinking poison. So I see a lot of people doing that for their competitors to ruin the engagement because it hurts the engagement rate and this kind of thing. Another thing is that they mix the entities of personal brand entities like people versus company entities versus other schema level objects, right? So if you look at the company's about page, it'll say, oh, this company was founded by so-and-so, Mr. Smith. And Mr. Smith, all this information about Mr. Smith's bio, but that really should be on mrsmith.com. And then his company should be stuff about the company. And Jason Barnard talks about this as well. So it just creates confusion. And anytime there's a little bit of confusion, Google will, by definition, sort of pull back and go, I don't think I want to show the knowledge panel because these things are mixed up together. And so if you do a search on your name, you may find, we have a tool that does this or whatever. Jason has a tool. There's lots of tools. You'll find there's a lot of people that might have the same name. And you'll find that your entity objects, like your Facebook or a particular post you made on Instagram or a YouTube thing or a podcast you're on, those objects that have you are actually mixed across multiple knowledge graph IDs. And that's just a sign that Google's confused, right? If I see friends of mine, this friend who owned the painting company, I want to say that there are 24 of Colby Davis. That's his name. That was and there are other people with the same name because that's a common American name. But the things that were his LinkedIn, the about on his website, all these things were mixed between all these 24. So it just, Google was confused there weren't actually 24 Colby Davises. There were maybe like 7 or 8, but the information was mixed. So it just couldn't disambiguate the different IDs because most of that information was not linked together properly. Like a proper link structure is, we have navneetkaushal.com as the hub, the center,
Right.
And then all of the socials link to this. And then the about on page traffic links to you as the founder. Everything points towards this is the definitive object for this guy.
Right.
And then for this company, if it's clean, like here's the company page traffic. And then everyone links here to pay, so that's the one for page traffic. It's like, okay, I'm pretty confident about this, right?
So just to follow up question. So do you think it's always good to have personal branded website along with your company?
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's not a vanity thing. It's not I'm a big CEO and look at my Lamborghini and I flew the private jet. No, it's you're trying to train Google on who you are. And it's not about your lifestyle or how much money you make, or it's nothing to do with that.
Okay. All right, now let's move to next section called again, you've been emphasizing and you often talk about content creation and amplification.
Yeah.
Now, you often talk about the importance of authentic content. Now, What does authentic content mean to you and how can businesses create it?
There's a lot of BS around being authentic and, just be real. And it sounds good, but it doesn't actually mean anything. It's just cotton candy. So when I think of authentic, I'm a math guy, so it needs to be a provable, very clear standard. I think of Google's EEAT standard. It used to be EAT, they added the extra E 3 years ago for experience, expertise, authority, trust. So authentic is sharing the actual experience so what's the most authentic, most raw, most real, most like unable to be ChatGPT'd kind of content? Cell phone video, showing the actual people doing that certain thing with other people corroborating that on social media, right? I feel like that maybe someone will find like a higher source of pure truth, but I think that not edited, including the metadata. Some people argue about does the metadata, okay, whatever. But like just an hour ago, Navneet, let me show you. 1 hour ago,
Okay.
I was in Las Vegas making videos in front of the Las Vegas sign. You see this?
Right.
With a
I
friend
see.
of mine. And we're doing training videos and we're talking about his journey. His name is Elias, and he has been doing this now for 2 years. And, you know, he's sharing his journey and what he's learned, right?
Okay.
And if we look at the information on this, we can see a click on the eye. So this is, you can do this in Google Photos, do it in the iCloud, do it whatever it is. I click on the eye. Notice it shows where it is.
Right.
We're at the sphere, right?
Right.
It shows it was an iPhone 16 Pro Max. It shows exactly the date and time. You can see it was an hour ago. We made these videos, right? And I believe that when we take that raw information and not process it, you know, I really don't like processed food because, you know, then it's not healthy and pure and all this kind of thing. You know, things in a box, food in the box, not healthy, right? So pure raw video showing an experience of what happened with these other people that are tagged properly. When that raw information gets put to YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and your Google business profile and your blog and these other places, and it corroborates and it links together the right way, not because you're trying to trick the search engine, and it actually gets real engagement because we promote it via our newsletter or, you know, social media works, or, you know, on YouTube you mention, hey, here's what I learned last week from Anton Schulke, whatever, then I think that sends a very, very pure trust signal. And so when you say authentic content, that's, I don't see how you can get any more authentic than that.
Agree. Now, how does this translate, again, going back for a small business? How do you think the businesses can create outside video, the authentic content?
They don't have to create this outside video. I think they do this. So your brand is the sum of all the things that anyone has to say about you. And of course, you would like them to create video and post it on their own channels. And because, you know, any content created by the brand that's been heavily edited, that's like, you know, the testimonials page on the company's website, like, come on, nobody believes this. It's like, you know, when you interview people and they give references, nobody, come on now, right? That's not trustworthy. So what you have to do is you have to incentivize in a way that doesn't get you in trouble. Like, obviously you can't pay consumers to leave reviews. That's obviously against the TOS, but you can pay your employees and you can incentivize them. You can do things where you honor people in your community for achieving certain things. So I have a friend, her name's Kim Butler, and she is a finance podcast person. She also has some software that she's built, and she advises people on life insurance as an investment vehicle. And so instead of selling her services outright, hey, sign up for me and I will help you buy insurance and make a commission, because that's what an insurance agent does. Instead, she interviews them on her podcast. And she's interviewed all the top names in financial services in the United States. She's spoken at the big conferences. I think she's at book number 6 now. And so that's generated a ton of trust. And she's not a big deal. She's a small business. It's a 2.5 person company. Her husband, and someone who's basically a VA part-time. That's it. That's their company. But her key for driving sales is interviewing other people on her podcast. And that generates real signals because it's with people that are well-known, that already are, not just because they already rank on those terms related to whole life insurance and, you know, investment and avoiding taxes and all these kinds of things that wealthy people care about, right? Right? That sends a ton of trust, and it's not hard. Like like the underlying angle, what I hear from you, Navneet, is that, well, I'm a small business, I can't do this. You can look, we're on freaking StreamYard, we were on Zoom a little earlier. That costs nothing. Just get somebody, you know, ask them questions. ChatGPT can generate the questions you ask. Talk to them for 15 minutes. They're the expert, not testimonial. Oh, you know, Navneet, tell me how awesome I am. Tell me, you know, like that. No one, that's just, that makes me want to throw up, right? But you're honoring other people, right? So small businesses out there, call up your friends, call up other people in the industry, do it with your competitors even. Honor them. Abundance mindset. Put that content on YouTube. Very lightly edit it. Put it on all the socials. That's authentic content. Anybody can do it. It's very easy. No need for a fancy camera. No need for anything fancy. You just need an iPhone or, you know, a laptop that has a webcam. That's it.
I agree. Right. Now, You have mentioned a 6-phase content factory
Yeah.
process in previous interviews, and of course on your website as well. You talk
Yeah.
about content factory.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through these phases and what exactly does content factory means?
Yeah. You know what's cool is that if I open, like, we've trained the AI and search so well, I
Okay.
could literally come in here and
Mhm.
say, "Oh, we're doing good. I'm with Navneet, who's the CEO of Page Traffic, and he asked me what the stages of the content factory are."
Creation, editing, and distribution. If you want more details, I'd be happy to dive in.
Well, I know you already know all the different pieces because we put it out there on web pages that ChatGPT is able to pick up on and all the social media stuff. So I'll just take it from here. Actually, first off, what do you know about page traffic, and what do you know about Navneet?
Free to let me know.
So we were joking about our mutual friend Vivek Bhargava. What do you think would be a fun thing that Navneet and I can say on his podcast, which is live right now, about Vivek?
Highlights his unique personality. It could add a personal touch to the podcast.
Great idea. You know, we were in Singapore and we've always joked about having salt and pepper crab. We've had that multiple times. The salt and pepper crab, and at the Raffles Hotel, the Singapore Sling, which is the classic drink in Singapore, and also hanging out in Mumbai. So I can tell you some fun stories, and I have proof, pictures and videos from my iPhone.
That sounds like a fantastic story. Sharing those memories of enjoying salt and pepper crab, the Singapore sling, and your time in Mumbai will definitely add a warm personal touch. It's
Now,
always great.
I have a lot of these on my phone, but I want to run the content factory process to be able to put it out there so that I can build my own brand, show that I am someone who is trustworthy in digital marketing because I'm, with Navneet and I'm eating salt and pepper crab with Vivek. How might I apply the different experiences I have with other people in the industry using the content factory to grow my personal brand, to be more Googleable, and also to help my company as well? Because of course I want to drive leads and SEO traffic and this kind of thing.
Key stories and moments you want to highlight. Create engaging content around these experiences like blog posts, social media updates, or videos. Make sure to edit them to highlight your insights and expertise. Finally, distribute this content across various platforms to reach a broader audience. This will help build your personal brand, make you more Googleable, and drive traffic and leads to your company. If you need help with specific steps, feel free to ask.
So a lot of people say that using AI tools, I can just generate tons and tons of content that seems authentic because it seems so believable, right? Because now the AI is so good, it generates video, it can hop on Zoom calls with you. But what I've preached is if you have the raw ingredients, the actual experiences, the actual relationships, and you use the AI to lightly process and repurpose those raw ingredients, that's how the AI multiplies your experience and brand and helps you win in the world of AI instead of being caught for penalties trying to trick the search engines and trick the social media. Why do I say that? And why is the content factory so key in being able to win the right way?
Experiences and relationships. You're providing genuine, valuable content. AI can enhance and amplify that, but starting with authentic material ensures your content remains trustworthy and engaging.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you. So we get to distribute this all over the place, repurposing and then promote for $1 a day, which is the last stage in the content factory. So right now we are on the Agency Insider Show, which you know is Navneet's show, and it's being recorded on StreamYard. How might anyone else who's listening, other agencies, where they interview other people in their vertical, employees, other people that are well known in SEO or whatever, how might they leverage these podcast episodes to grow their agency using the content factory steps?
Start by repurposing podcast content into various formats: blog posts, social media snippets, and short video clips. Highlight key insights and moments to engage different audiences. Promoting these across platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter can attract a wider audience. Finally, using targeted ads like the $1 a day strategy helps boost visibility and reach. This systematic approach ensures consistent growth and engagement.
Right. So then when this episode finally launches across Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and wherever it is, because I see you post it, you're very good about that. A lot of podcasters don't do that. I'm going to spend my own money, Navneet, $1 a day, big money, $2 a day even. And I'm going to target everyone who knows you. I'm going to target everyone who follows page traffic. And it's going to give me super high engagement, which sends great signals and helps both me and Navneet. Is that right, ChatGPT?
Absolutely. Using targeted ads
Okay,
like that.
enough. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Proof, right?
Right. The proof is in the pudding.
I didn't just tell you, I proved it.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. So that was fun.
Has anyone ever done that to you in a podcast, right?
No, no. So now, how do you balance creating content for search engines versus creating content for human readers?
I've never created content for search engines. I only create what I think is the most interesting content that solves a particular problem for a particular user base, showing the particular steps on how to solve that problem.
Okay.
And as long as I create that, and it's helpful content. I even hate saying helpful content because Google has made it this helpful content thing into some other definition. But if I have that and I repurpose it and all that, then if I take care, and if I say this, people get mad at me because they go, oh, this is what the search engines say. Matt Cutts and these other people say this. No, but I truly believe this. If it truly is helpful, I'm trying to do this for the users. It will work for the search engines mostly. I mean, there's obviously a gap between humans and with the robots and the AI, but it's close enough now that I think it's better just to try to serve the users. Don't worry about the search engine part, right?
Right. So now you also talked about dollar a day. So if you could a little bit tell us more, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, think about this. So if you and I talk about, getting knowledge panels for founders of agencies, right? And we have a really good discussion about this. Let's say it's actually factually very good, helpful. People say, wow, this is really good. Well, you and I could think it was a great discussion. But how do we know, and how would Google know that that's actually good content? They're not going to, scan for LSI or other sorts of things like that. And there's all kinds of ways to trick that using AI tools. Instead, if people who are actually reputable, like actual agencies that are on the Agency Insider show, and people that actually do SEO, and people that have actually followed our techniques to get knowledge panels, and there's a signal where we see that they're engaging on LinkedIn. We see that they're, staying and watching the YouTube video all the way through, right? Because YouTube's part of Google. And we see that there's traffic, and all these, everyone else can see, Google and Facebook and all that can see that it's not just bot traffic that I'm getting from, Bangladesh or something, but it's actually the most relevant people, and it's the highest engagement. Then that's a really, really strong, authentic, non-fakeable signal, right? So how do I get that? Well, if I don't have a big email list, if I don't have a big brand, if I'm not well known, then I run $1 a day against the related audience. Okay. So Michael Stelzner runs Social Media Examiner. He's the biggest name in social media marketing. He's a big deal, right? I'm not a big deal. But I happened to catch him in San Diego. And I said, Mike, I would love to interview you on my podcast. And I want to ask you these questions, which I know he already knows the answers to. Right? How did you grow this thing? It was, very complimentary to him because it showed how he uses data to make decisions, to decide what the hot topic, because he's always been very good about knowing what the next thing is. Like, how come he's like, of all the people, how come he's like Warren Buffett predicting the next correct thing, right? And I asked him about how did he know, and how did he become the biggest guy in a very competitive, this whole social media marketing thing, so competitive. How do you be the number one guy, right? And so he answered all that. And I thought it was a good podcast. But when I released it, Navneet, almost no one saw it. Like a few hundred people saw it. And then I used the $1 a day strategy, and I targeted all the people who follow Michael Stelzner on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, LinkedIn. And I just spent $1 a day on each of those channels, pushing them to that video. I think he and I talked for 32 minutes, something like that. Okay. And the engagement rate and the average watch time and all of this very high, right? Is it because like we had really good professional video editing? Is it because of the thumbnail was exciting? Was it because we would clickbait with the headline? Like, it was none of those things. It was because they trust Michael Stelzner. They already know who Michael Stelzner is. They spent money, thousands of dollars, to come to his conference every year, right? They already trust him. I targeted just them. I didn't target everyone in the world. I didn't target all the followers of HubSpot or whatever. No, I targeted his followers and his company and the conference. Like, what percent of the people who go to social media marketing world know who Michael Stelzner is? 100%, right?
Right.
So if I have a super relevant target, which I'm using via dollar a day ads because I can do this kind of targeting, what kind of engagement rate can I expect? What do you think? Like, what is a good standard?
It would be more than 10% at least.
10% is the rule, right? If it's at least 10%, it's good. But I often get 20%. Sometimes I get 60%.
Wow.
Like, what's a good CTR in an ad? If you're lucky to get 1%, right?
1.5, right.
But I often get 40, 50%. And
Wow.
it's not like people like, oh, yeah, I got a 50% CTR. Yeah, 2 impressions, you got 1 click. That's not statistically significant. I'm targeting 10,000 people, and I'm getting 5,000 of them to engage.
Wow.
How's that? What kind of signal do you think that sends to Google?
That, again, the authenticity and the genuine, it's the authentic content, of course. That's the signal which
But it's not advertising. So the way people fail on this dollar a day thing is like, oh, advertise. Why would I spend money, Navneet, to promote someone else's content? I'm going to spend my money when this episode goes live or whatever. I am going to spend my money promoting your show. Why would I do that? Because it builds trust for me. It builds my SEO too.
Right.
Yeah, but my link is pointing to you. Yeah, it still helps me because the signal of trust is stronger than the link signal. Who cares if it's a DR? Like, I have sites that, I think you're like a DR 64 or something like that. I have sites that are way higher than that. I don't care. That's not the main thing.
Right. So you checked all the DRs as well.
All of these, of course, anytime I go on someone's podcast, obviously I want to look them up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I've been an author on a lot of search engine journals, search engine watch, and all those. So those builds credibility. I was doing those authors. That's why the PRDR became high.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. All right. Now, so when you talk about this dollar a day, does it means to be for our audience run for just one day or run for like 5 days?
You run for a week, so you spend $7 to test. And then if it's good, if it meets the 10% criteria, at least 10%, even if you think it's amazing, but it's less than 10%, let the data tell you what's correct, then you can put more money on it, subject to the size of the audience. Sometimes the audience could be like my buddy Brian Eisenberg, right? His mom got ill and had a problem with Sears, and we targeted the executives who worked at Sears in Chicago. And I couldn't spend more than a couple dollars a day because it was a very limited group of people, maybe a couple dozen people. So I couldn't spend $10 a day if I wanted to. So dollar a day is subject to the size of the audience you want to reach. So it's everyone who attends a certain conference, like all the painters go to this Painting Contractors Association. I had no idea this is such it's a huge conference, right? There's so many people that paint houses, right? So if I targeted all of them, I could maybe spend $70 a day, something like that. Maybe 100 if I cut across all the different channels. So if you're doing influence and you're an agency and you've chosen a niche, so not just like I do digital or social or PPC for everyone on the planet, but you choose a niche. I do this just for real estate agents. I do this just for e-commerce companies. Right. I do Amazon for drop shipping. I don't know, whatever it is, like then that makes it easy for dollar a day to work. If you're a legacy agency and you target everyone on the planet because you say we serve anyone, we can do everything. We can do Facebook ads, we can do SEO, we can do dollar a day is not going to work for you because it's just like I need the laser precision, right, for it to work because I need to get that relevancy high enough to get at least 10% engagement.
Right. So Brian Eisenberg is the one who wrote the books like How to Make Your Cat Bark.
That's right. Yeah.
I've been reading
A/B
it.
Testing, all the conversion stuff. Yeah. The Rice and Beans Millionaires, the latest one. Yeah.
I used to order those books from Amazon US. I'm talking in 2007 and 6. So you have to order them from there. And I have my content writer read those books. And I love those revolving door resolution points, all those things. And now I suddenly remember all that.
I'm going to snip what you just said and send that to him because I talk to him 2 or 3 times every week. And we've been friends for 20-something years. Yeah.
I'll also love to have him on my podcast. I'm a great fan because, when he started writing, I was reading about Brian Eisenberg and all his books. I still would have those books with me.
Yeah. He's incredible. Yeah. And every copy of every book I paid for myself of his books.
Wow. They are very good books, right? Yes. Okay, now let's talk a little bit further about building personal brand and trust.
Mhm.
So, you are a strong advocate for personal branding as a tool for building trust and authority. Now, what are the foundation elements someone should focus on to establish a credible personal brand?
Well, first off, your personal brand is not what you say about yourself. You want a good personal brand? I don't like it when people say personal brand because it sounds like, coming up with logos and slogans and dressing differently and showing your lifestyle and sports cars. Instead, I translate that to reputation. So I ask people, what's your reputation? Well, first off, is it a good or bad reputation? If I ask your customers, right, you're an agency. If I poll your different clients, if your churn rate is high, I don't think you should be working on your personal brand. If anything, it'll make your personal brand worse if if you have a bad reputation, if you don't deliver. So first off, you need to deliver consistently. If you deliver the results, make the phone ring, conversion rate high, 600% ROAS, whatever your conversion is, whatever the thing is that you do, that you promise, that has value, people pay for, then and only then can you start to build a personal brand, because then you have all these people that will talk about you and invite you on their podcast and meet you at the conference and say good things. Like this other guy who was a friend of mine, he started an agency and grew it to $4 million a year, but then all this money came in and he couldn't help himself. So he started spending it on all these luxury things and then took all the money and didn't deliver for the clients. And it was a bad situation. The agency's name was Service Legend. They went from almost $4 million to they almost went out of business. And because this guy was so focused on building his personal brand, he would post all these Bible quotes because he knows that his customer base of concrete coating companies is like 50-year-old white male Christians. So he would post Bible verses while he was at the strip club and doing all these things that he thought was building his personal brand. And he made a post last week showing his Lamborghini and showing his big lifestyle and playing golf and all of this, thinking he's building his personal brand, when all the customers that he burned by taking all, like, imagine this, these customers who have paid him $3,000 a month for the last 3 or 4 years and have not gotten results. Nobody answers the phone, right? Someone does an SEO audit and finds out nothing's happened, right? And meanwhile, they see this guy, Ryan Davis, driving around, wasting all this money that they spent. How is that customer going to feel? No amount of personal branding or legal, sue Dennis, or, come up with a new influencer campaign or set up this donation for injured children. Like, none of that is going to overcome the fact that you haven't done good work. So
Absolutely.
I'd say focus on making sure you do good work. And then kind of the personal brand happens just automatically. You don't even have to think about it. People will talk about you. They refer you. Like almost all of the customers that we get, all the new business we get is people. I could open my Gmail right now and show you. All these people say, Dennis, you need to meet so-and-so. Hey, I want to introduce you to so-and-so who also has this issue. Can you help them? I know Dennis has helped me in the past, so maybe he could help you and you should have a talk. And so we never need to do any of this stuff. And I call that personal brand. That's the effect of having a strong personal brand. It's not something, you don't build a personal brand. What you do is do good work. You take care of your customers. You take care of your people. And then that automatically, then because of what they're so happy that that becomes your personal brand. Like here, I'll tell you, 2 hours ago, right? 2 hours ago, I was making videos with my friend Elias, and he's a young adult, and this is proof, right? So this is what he said. Turn the sound on. You can look at this. Anyway, so there's a lot of people. Like if you Google my name, you'll see, no exaggeration, thousands of people that will say how their lives are changed because they ran dollar a day. Because like I'll go to a conference and people will come up to me saying, I know this sounds kind of weird, but I first started following you 10 years ago or whatever, and I've since grown my business, and I know we've never talked, but I just feel like I owe you something. I just want to say thank you. Maybe I can take you to dinner, whatever. Wow. That's a personal brand.
Right.
It's you create impact, you help other people. And then, like Brian Eisenberg publishes a book that you and I have bought, right? And now 15, since 2007, how 17 years ago, then almost 2025 in a few days. But You know, that's building the brand. It's like all the things you need to do to build a reputation. I don't even want to hear people say personal brand, because to say personal brand implies all of these like ego activities. I say, what do you need to do to increase your reputation? That's a more practical way of looking at it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, coming to this, I mean, of course, what uh, I mean, what role does storytelling helps in personal branding, and how, I know personal branding is not exactly personal branding now, but how can agencies help their client craft compelling narratives when it comes to personal branding, and not in a negative way?
So people think of narrative and storytelling as some kind of magical, unique angle to, you know, like great copywriting or clickbaiting people. But I view it as the core of what problem do you serve for what exact audience and how you do it. So that's basically niche targeting. We call that goals, content, and targeting, also known as strategy, that very particular combination, right? And if that's clear, then, and you have repeat proof that you know, drive Amazon sales for like whatever the thing is that you do, you know, you make the phone ring, Facebook ads for painting, roofing companies, whatever it is, right? And you've got an SOP around it. And you've got customers that if you know, if we had this list of customers and we were just to call a random mix of them, they would all say, oh yes, working with page traffic, fantastic, right? Then this whole idea of storytelling and narrative and personal brand and, you know, strategic PR angle or whatever all ends up being the same thing. Because even if you don't do this, like, oh, let's hire Dennis for some PR magic personal brand, like, no, I wouldn't even do that. That's just fluff. What's, you know, if the core of delivery is solid for agencies, and most are not because they white label it out but pretend that they don't know what white labeling is, but they do. You know, they don't know how to actually do it. They just hire, you know, you understand what I'm saying. Then I don't know how you can really, you know, protect your reputation, because you really have no ability to stand behind your work because you don't even know what's going on.
Right.
So no amount of hiring a PR agency to repair this or to try to trick people or design a new website with a new color logo doesn't address the core issue.
Right.
And it all just goes back to reputation. So to reframe your question on how can agencies help their clients, make sure that whatever you did for that agency is an SOP. Everything that you do should be driven by an SOP. And I'm not even kidding. Don't even make any assumptions about that. Then make sure that that is repeatable across every single one of your clients. Now, this is where agencies get in trouble, because initially when they start out, they have what we call a dog's breakfast, which is they take, oh, this is a real estate agent. Oh, this is a restaurant. Oh, this, my mom has a business. Oh, this, like, and they just take, and then there's no single SOP. So have you been in America and been to Chick-fil-A, right?
I've been to America, but not to Chick-fil-A.
Or like In-N-Out, right?
Okay.
People, you know, In-N-Out has a cult-like following. People just, wow, the line is so long to try to go into this restaurant or the drive-through, and that's because they make just the hamburgers. They don't do spaghetti and pizza and chicken sandwiches and barbecue beef. They do the one thing very, very well over and over again. This is the whole thing about niching. So if agencies take on multiple types of clients and sell multiple types of services, then it's going to be very hard to deliver a consistent, I mean, then this whole idea of story and narrative, like everyone's different. Now, if you have 10 clients that are all in different industries, you have 10 agencies, right?
Right.
So then, no, you can't have a story or a narrative, because there's no foundational, repeatable thing to build around.
Right. Okay. So on to the topic of agencies, let's talk a little bit more into it. Now, leading an agency comes with, of course, its unique set of challenges. What advice do you have for agency owners looking to scale their business sustainability?
Well, I wouldn't say anything different than what all the other guys, you know, Josh Nelson, JC Hyde, me, we all say the same thing. Choose that niche, do one service against that thing, one package, not like 5 different tiers of things that you could do. One thing for one niche, one price point, and just do it just in-house initially, and then you can white label it out after you understand how to do it yourself. That's the scaling part.
Yeah.
Scaling. So agencies ask me all the time, how do I scale? I'll say, what are you scaling? Let's look at the thing that you're scaling. Look at your revenues. Where are the leads coming from? How strong is your referral base? Is your delivery, inconsistent? Is it in-house? How much is outsourced? Do you have key bottlenecks in your people? Scaling assumes that, so people come to me all the time and they say, how do I scale? And then I look at their operations and look at their revenue and all this, and I'll say, you don't have a scale issue. You have a basic delivery issue. Once you have basic delivery in place, then you can scale. To ask the question of scaling assumes that your operations are already consistent.
Okay. And of course, the SOPs are in place. Then only it makes sense. Absolutely.
Well, they say they have SOPs, but usually when you ask and say, okay, show me, then they have trouble showing you. But agencies lie to me all the time. I don't think they're trying to lie, but they say they have SOPs, or it's in their head, or people know it. They just didn't write it down. An SOP that isn't written down it doesn't count, right?
Right. We have all our SOPs in Notion now and Google
Great.
Sheets. So we do all that. I'm a big SOP and a process guys from day one. So I like that.
Amen.
And we also have every loom recorded for every process.
Fantastic. Love it.
Right. Now, so what are some leadership lessons you have learned over the year, especially when it comes to building a team that shares your vision?
So we have something we call the 9 triangles, which I learned from other mentors. They're 9 principles. So if you Google 9 triangles, Dennis Yu, you'll see what they are. But I'll tell you a couple of them. One of them is learn, do, teach. So learn how to do the thing yourself competently, ideally from first person sources, like someone who actually has done the thing, right? Not just someone who's charging you a lot of money, promising you're going to get rich, but someone who's actually done the thing that you want to do. Do it repeatedly so it can then be documented in Notion or whatever it is for your SOP, so other people can then repeat what you did. Okay. And if that's in place, then that's how you're going to succeed as an agency, because then you can attract other people, you can develop them and give them a path upward where they can make more money. You have a clear way of measuring performance. As your company's growing, that creates upward opportunity. If your company, if your agency is not growing, you're not going to be able to attract A players. You must be in an environment of growth for that to happen. And most agency owners, they're very talented. They work very hard, but they normally know how to do one thing. They're good at selling. They're good at optimizing. They're good at, Facebook ads but they suck at all the other ones. They suck at the accounting. They suck at, doing the legal things, or they suck at, whatever it is. And so I usually see with agencies that are, say, like below $5 million a year, there is often I'm stereotyping here, but it's generally true. There's like one person who's like really good at selling and talking. Maybe there's someone else who's like more like operational, make sure, project management. And then there's maybe like a marketing person, maybe even a technical person too. Like, and they tend to be different people. And you can tell, like, when the CEO is a salesperson, that they lose a lot of these details and their churn rate is high. And you see when you have an operator, they have trouble with growth and they have trouble with, changing and whatnot. So, it's like whatever you are, if you're a leadership visionary person, you have to hire an integrator to balance the other side, because you can't be a good CEO and a good COO at the same time, because they're completely, when you optimize for one, you sub-optimize for the other, right? Just like a good accountant, you probably don't want them to be creative. Then you're going to go to jail, right? Right. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, so when you get to a certain size, like, okay, if you only make $50,000 a month, you don't have enough room to have 3 or 4 role players like that. You have only enough room for yourself, a few freelancers, that's about it. A project manager, maybe one account manager, if that, right? When you get to $100,000 a year, you can then have a COO, you can have 2 or 3 account managers, right. 10 VAs, right? But those problems happen at bigger numbers.
So does it make sense to set yourself for a bigger number, or you do these type of changes when you approach those numbers?
If you can afford it, I believe in hiring in advance, which even though it's less profitable because there's a gestation time for people to get ready. And usually, like even for junior roles, it's probably 3 to 6 months. And for senior roles, it's 6 to 12 months. What do you see in your agency? Probably something like that, right?
Right.
So if you hire at the time of need, it's going to be another 6 to 12 months before that person's truly operational. And by then you're already in pain.
Absolutely. I've been through some of these, so I can correlate.
I have the scars on my back to prove it.
We all would in 20 years of working for 20 plus years. I'm sure we all have
These young
gone.
adults, they don't listen to us. I give them this advice and they don't do it. And then they get in trouble and they grow and they bring in all these customers and then they didn't hire the people. I'm like, you sold. Why did you keep selling and you know you couldn't deliver? Come on. Now you've hurt your reputation.
Right. So now AI and future of marketing. In your opinion, what are some practical ways agencies can leverage AI to create a meaningful client outcomes?
To create a meaningful what?
Client outcomes. So for client outcomes.
Yes. This is going to sound kind of cheesy because everyone's like, oh, AI this and AI that and hype about AI and all this. I tend to look at it in terms of AI is still in the uncanny valley, meaning it does some things that are pretty cool, but it's just, it's like not quite there. I mean, it does these things, but there's a couple things that is, memory's not high enough. It doesn't have enough connectivity. It doesn't integrate with our project management systems. There's limitations on how much, like the thing is slow when you use it to answer the phone and do lead appointment setting and all this. Like it's good, but it's like, there's always, So my view is everyone in the company should be learning how to have conversations with ChatGPT. And I'm a big fan. I have no ownership in OpenAI, but I'm a big fan of the Teams plan. I think Pro at $200 a month per user is a little ridiculous. The price will come down,
Right.
but $30 a month for Teams, way better than $20. And I know, Microsoft has their thing with the Copilot and Google Gemini and Anthropic, and you can argue about Claude and all these other folks, but I think it's as simple as saying it's it's like Nike versus Adidas. Oh, well, I think Adidas is a bit. No, if you suck at basketball, switching from Nike to Adidas is not going to improve your game. Okay, it's really in the user of the tool, not the tool. You can argue about which
Right.
hammer is the better hammer. Like they're all hammers. Okay,
Right.
they're all LLMs. Okay, so
Right.
which is a whole nother discussion for engineers who want to have this discussion. We can, but it's a waste of time. What matters is having empathetic conversations, pushing enough data so that the AI can actually, if you push the correct data, there's all these tools that will help you connect these things together. Push the correct data, have empathetic conversations that are driven by an underlying SOP, and then have the ability to take action. So you're hearing in 2025, it's all about agentic AI, which is like actually make the phone call, actually do the purchase, actually call the customer, actually build the website, do the things, the tasks.
Right.
But the execution of the task means integration with the CRM, integration with the system that manages like where you send your people to go do different things, right? That integration is slow. It always is. But that's where everything is headed with the AI. So all of us who run agencies, I coach a lot of agencies,
Right.
need to have all of our people, I don't care who they are, whatever role, they need to learn to have conversations so that the AI can coach them, not to generate content, which is the dumbest thing to use it for.
Right.
Use it to say, you know what, I'm having a meeting tomorrow. I'm on Navneet's podcast, this agency insider. Tell me about what do I need to know about? What kinds of questions do you think he'll ask? Or, hey, I'm interviewing this candidate. What do you think about him? Here, let me show you his resume. What do you think? Or of all the people that, should I hire this person or that person? Or, I'm planning a trip for a spring break. Should I go here or that? What do you think? Like, what questions am I not asking? I'm trying to make this decision. Should I buy this company or not? And this is what the deal looks like. But what am I not looking at? What kind of risk is not like, so you're asking the advisory component, coaching or whatever you want to call it, I think is the most important thing of all the people I know that use the AI the right way. They always point to the advisory piece. I use it when I just go for a walk. You know, in the morning, I'll go for a walk and I'll have a conversation like with the mentor. And that's the way we look at it. So everyone should do that to be able to grow. And if they don't, it means they're not intellectually curious and they're locked in a box. And fine, if they're doing something, some $5 an hour work that a VA can do, then the AI is going to replace that eventually.
Absolutely. I think in 2025, most of these jobs will be replaced by AI when the agents came in all of the aspects we are
You
working
can't,
on.
it's coming. The Matrix, you know, all of this is coming.
Right. It's yes.
The robot invasion, Elon Musk's robot, all of this, right?
Right. So, are there any emerging technologies or platform that you are particularly excited about?
I think that OpenAI is, as much as we can hate Sam Altman and some of the dirty things that have happened in his fight with Elon Musk, I think right now they're so far ahead of everyone else. They are the Swiss Army knife of AI. And yes, HeyGen is better at generating video, and Sora just launched, and O3 is very expensive. Like people, okay, fine. People were saying the same thing they've been saying for the last 3 years. So I'd say learn how to talk to the AI. Like literally, you can FaceTime with the AI. And that has unlocked so much for me in having conversations than like the chatbot thing. Like a friend of mine, I won't name him, sent me a chatbot that he built this morning. And I chatted with it and it was pretty smart. I said, "So what do you know about me and this guy?" "Oh, well, you guys did this and this." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. It's actually pretty smart. It has a lot of training information." But it just failed in so many areas, and just felt like a really smart chat bot. I feel like chatbots, like, I don't want to chat with a freaking bot. Okay, like I know it's a bot, it's not real, it doesn't look real. I think we need something better than that. So there's so many guys that promise me every day. They hit me up, "Hey, you need to try this AI track," because they want me to promote their AI, right? Because they think I have influence with agencies. People ask me to be on their podcast because they know a lot of agencies follow me, right? And I'll say, like, "Look, I'm not here to promote your tool. I'm sure you believe your tool is the best AI tool chatbot out there, but I'm chatbotted out. I feel like you could make something a little bit better, but it's got to be 10 times better for me to really care at this point. What I care about is agentic AI. Show me that, and I'm very interested in seeing what you have."
Yes, I'm also excited about that.
But it's not there. I've been waiting for this. I've been demanding. I've been wandering in the desert thirsty, waiting for this for several years.
It's coming next
That's
year.
what they tell me. They keep saying this, but every time they're late on their thing. GPT-5 was supposed to be here already. What's going on?
Right. Okay.
I want to go
Now,
to Mars. Come on.
to the final segment of our show, rapid fire segment.
Okay.
So, all right, Dan, it's time for a quick rapid fire round. I'll ask you some fun and fast questions here, and you can respond with the first thing that comes in your mind.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
Okay. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Energetic, open, young.
One book you believe every marketer should read.
Principles by Ray Dalio.
If you weren't in the digital marketing, what would you be doing?
I'd be buying other companies in investment banking.
Your favorite productivity tool?
Basecamp. I've used it for 20 some years. Lots of integrations.
I was using it since 2006. Yes. So, a brand you admire for their digital strategy?
Starbucks, because they have the best app loyalty program I've ever seen. Full disclosure, they were a client of ours, so I'm biased.
Okay. One habit that keeps you grounded?
I play golf. It shows me how many mistakes I make.
Okay. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Delegate out as much as you can. No need to be perfect.
I agree. Okay, that was amazing, Danish. Thank you for playing along. Now let's wrap with some final takeaways. You have built a robust toolbox for marketers, from strategies to actionable tips. If you were to give our listeners 3 tools or strategy they must use today, what would they be?
One is Boomerang, which is a Gmail plugin that helps you manage your messages so you never lose track of anything.
Right.
2, obviously, is the integration of ChatGPT, but especially the voice video chat, which I consider, I use it more than any other tool that I use.
Okay.
And 3 is Apple iCloud for the photos, because everything that's on my phone, I find is the bottleneck to distribute to the team, to be able to process, to edit, and everything. That's the bottleneck. And every entrepreneur I know, they don't have a good answer for this. So they end up not making these videos, or they do it sporadically and it's not very good. So I've learned a lot of hacks with iCloud. For example, I can get a 4 terabyte iCloud account, and most people think that's not possible.
Okay,
You have an Apple One family plan and you put the extra 2 terabytes against your regular 2 terabyte plan. Problem solved.
I have an Apple One family plan for sure.
Yeah.
But didn't you? Right. Okay. Looking ahead, what do you think will be the most significant challenge for digital marketers in the next year?
They won't know what to do with AI. They can't keep up. Their customers are going to expect them to know. And they're going to be disintermediated between the AI that's run by the networks and the AI that's from these other AI companies. They won't know what to do, because the clients will just be doing it themselves. And the agents are going to be, the agencies are going to be like the horse and buggy, with people.
Okay. Okay. And what is one piece of advice you would give to agency owners who want to stand out in this competitive world or a space?
Focus on that one very amazing customer that loves you, and just laser focus, even though the temptation is to try to do everything for everybody. And then that will drive the relationship, well documented, will drive you 100 more of the same thing.
Okay. That's good advice. Okay, Dennis, this has been an incredible conversation filled with actionable insights, thoughtful, provoking ideas, having a chat with ChatGPT. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Agency Insider Show. Be sure to check out Dennis' website and resources at BlitzMetrics.com for more insights. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more industry-leading conversations. Until next time, take care and keep innovating. And thank you once again, Dennis, for you.
Thank you, Navneet. If you were to summarize in one sentence, why should people listen to this episode?
Because it's filled with something which is coming to. I'll summarize it that.
That's good.
Yes.
That has enough to cause people to want to learn more.
Right.
Yeah.